Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we are going to explore a truly fascinating concept based on some incredibly deep historical and textual analysis. We're looking at how ancient, sacred texts, well, they aren't just dry history books. They're actually living, breathing realities that speak directly to our present moments. So today, we're basically putting on our historical detective hats to investigate the lineage of Prophet Ibrahim, or Abraham, and uncover a narrative that fundamentally shifts how we view ancient history.
To really understand what it means for a text to be living, let's start with a really powerful emotional hook from Islamic history. When Prophet Muhammad passed away, his close companion Omar bin Khattab essentially had a panic attack. He was so overcome with grief that he flat out refused to believe the Prophet had died. In that moment of intense chaos, Abu Bakr recited a powerful reminder. Muhammad is not but a messenger. Messengers have passed on before him. If he dies or is killed, will you turn back on your heels? When Omar heard this, he just collapsed. He later said it literally felt as though this verse had just been revealed right then and there. He already knew the verse, obviously, but in his moment of profound grief, the text became entirely brand new to him.
And honestly, that brilliantly illustrates the concept of Shana Nuzul. Now, traditionally, this refers to the specific historical circumstances or the exact moment a verse was revealed. But the source material makes a profound argument here. It says that while historical context is definitely important, the most crucial context is actually what is happening in your life right now, in this exact moment when you read the text. The ultimate purpose of the Quran isn't just to dispense information like an encyclopedia. It's to speak directly to the human heart during whatever trials you're facing today.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this journey. First, we'll ask if the Quran is just history or today's reality. Then we'll dive into a great historical dispute, uncover clues hidden directly in the Bible, explore how the Kaaba reclaims the narrative, and finally, look at a universal message of leadership.
Section 1. Quran, History, or Today, Beyond Mere Information.
Moving on to Section 2. A great historical dispute. Two sons, two narratives.
Now this brings us to a pretty fascinating question. If the Quran is meant to be a living guide for believers today, why does Surah Al-Baqarah dedicate roughly 80 verses to intensely critiquing the history and actions of Bani Israel, the children of Israel? The point isn't just to point fingers, right? These verses actually address a major historical roadblock that was preventing people from accepting the message at that time. To understand those verses, we have to uncover a super dense historical conflict. The researcher Hamiduddin Farahi did some really extensive work on this, highlighting how history was essentially altered to favor one narrative over another regarding Prophet Ibrahim's two sons, Ismail and Ishaq. So let's break down the core of this historical dispute. We're looking impartially at two starkly different perspectives here. On one hand, we see the Judeo-Christian and modern evangelical view. Historically, this perspective has pushed a narrative that Ismail was an illegitimate child, that his lineage is cursed, and that Ishaq, Isaac, was the sole chosen heir for divine blessings. But then on the other hand, we have the Islamic view, which asserts that both sons were perfectly legitimate, Ismail was the elder son, and both lineages were deeply blessed by God. This ideological clash, it's basically the root of so much historical tension.
Which brings us to Section 3. The Bible's own arguments, clues in the texts.
Okay, let's put our historical detective hats back on for a second, because according to the source, the Judeo-Christian text actually contains logical and geographic clues that complicate their own altered narrative. It's like the text itself leaves breadcrumbs. The crucial point is right here on this timeline. Even the Bible acknowledges that Ishmael was born first and that there's a full 14-year age gap before Ishaq is born. Yet the biblical narrative contains a really famous command where God tells Abraham to sacrifice his only son. So how on earth could that command apply to Ishaq when for 14 years, Ishmael was the actual, literal only son? The source argues that to make Ishmael the focal point of the sacrifice, the narrative had to artificially strip Ishmael of his legitimate status as a son, even though other parts of the Bible explicitly still refer to him as Abraham's son. It's a massive paradox, right?
Let's move to the geography and see how this builds. The biblical text mentions the location of the sacrifice involves two burnt, rocky hills named in Hebrew as Shifa and Morah. It actually describes a burnt valley. Now think about Jerusalem for a second. It's historically known for its lush greenery and olive trees. It doesn't exactly fit the description of a burnt, rocky valley, does it? But do you know what does? The barren, rocky desert of Makkah, which literally houses two famous hills named Safa and Marwa. The linguistic and geographic clues point directly to Makkah, not Jerusalem.
All right, Section 4.
the Kaaba, and true heirs reclaiming the narrative.
And this brings us right back to why Surah Al-Baqarah spends so much time on this. After laying out all these historical realities, the Quran explicitly brings the focus back to the house, the Kaaba, built by Ibrahim and Ismail, effectively correcting the historical record. The Quran describes this house as a permanent sanctuary of peace, a place of return for the people, and a place of security. When the children of Israel heard this in Medina, they might have automatically assumed the house meant the temple in Jerusalem. But the Quran's description forces a major reality check. Jerusalem tragically has a history filled with devastating wars, sieges, and destructions over millennia. The Kaaba in Mecca, however, has historically been maintained as a sanctuary of absolute peace, where fighting is strictly forbidden. The Quran is proving geographically and historically exactly which house is truly being referenced.
This is brilliantly illustrated when we compare religious rituals side by side. The Quran commands Ibrahim and Ismail to purify the house for those who perform tawaf, circumambulation, i'tikaf, seclusion, ruku, bowing, and sujud, prostration. Now, according to the source, modern Judeo-Christian traditions completely lack tawaf. They have bowing, sure, but they actually historically abandoned sujud, the act of full prostration. These four specific rituals, combined all together, are only found in one place on earth, the Kaaba in Mecca under the Islamic tradition.
Then you have the incredible prayer of Prophet Abraham. He prays, "My Lord, make this a secure city and provide its people with fruits." Think about how miraculous this is. He's standing in a completely barren, uncultivated desert valley where literally not even a single plant grows naturally, and he's asking God to provide its people with all kinds of fruits. It's a prayer of immense faith that the source highlights as being fulfilled to this very day in the city of Mecca.
Section 5. A Universal Message. Leadership for All Mankind.
So, this whole historical investigation leads us to the ultimate conclusion of Ibrahim's profound tests. He wasn't just a local figure. He was appointed as an imam, a leader for all of humanity. The crucial takeaway here is the nature of this divine covenant. When God appoints Ibrahim as a leader for mankind, Ibrahim immediately asks, "What about my descendants?" And God replies that his promise does not include the unjust. Meaning, divine leadership is absolutely not a genetic right. It's not about bloodlines or claiming you're part of some chosen race. It's based entirely on righteousness and justice. This mission was universal, starting with Ibrahim and, according to the source, culminating with Prophet Muhammad, who was sent not just for a specific tribe, but for all mankind.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. After looking at these incredible historical corrections, the geographic clues, and the timeless lessons of leadership, you really have to ask yourself, is the sacred text merely history for you, or is it today's reality? Are you just reading it as a dry account of ancient peoples, or are you interacting with it as a living guide that speaks directly to the trials, the leadership challenges, and the moments of grief in your own daily life? Well, I hope this explainer has given you a powerful new lens through which to view these ancient words. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and keep asking the big questions.